Hello and welcome to the programme which looks at the Holy Land. I am Paul Calvert. Psalm 107 verse 1 from the New King James Bible says this: "Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his mercy endures forever." I'm with Dennis Lipkin here in Jerusalem. Now, you're originally from the US.
Yes.
Why did you come to Israel?
Well, I'm what you would call a Zionist. A Zionist is officially somebody who understands that the place of the Jewish people is in the land of Israel, and that we are all destined eventually to come live in Israel. And one little point, when I was 15 years old in America, I had the honor to correspond with our first Prime Minister, David Ben-Gurion. And I wrote him 5 letters, but I got 2 responses in his own handwriting. And I have them, and they're in Facebook also, so I can just send it to you. He said that there's no future for the Jewish people outside of Israel. And those who do not make Aliyah or move to Israel, they or their children or children's children will eventually intermarry with non-Jews and disappear. In other words, within 2-3 generations, Jews are virtually gone in every country in which they are. And by the way, the Christians that I know love the Jewish people, and Christian girls love Jewish boys, and Christian boys love Jewish girls. And what that means is intermarriage. And so wherever we look outside of Israel, and it could be Christian countries, it could be Muslim countries, even China once had a Jewish population. They all intermarried with the Chinese. So there is a situation in which really the only place where you can keep the Jews, in most cases, marrying Jews, is in the land of Israel. I was 15, 16, 17. I left my parents when I was 19, and I moved to Israel then as a student.
Was it easy making Aliyah coming to Israel?
For me, it was very easy because I had been educated, in addition to the public school in America, I was also educated in the Hebrew school. I would study every day until 3, the public school. I would have sports until 5, and 5 to 7 I'd go to Hebrew school. And I had very, very intensive Israeli teachers who really drilled me. I would come home for dinner at 7:30, do my homework, and go to bed. And so I was very Hebrew educated and Zionist educated until I decided to move here.
Now, you formed a new political party here in Israel called the Bible Bloc. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, since you're from England, from the UK, you know the story of the American Revolution from the British perspective. The American colonists were very loyal to King George, very loyal to England. The American colonists fought in the wars against France and against the Indians, the local, population. And because England had its own agenda and heavy wars and heavy debts, the Crown imposed very, very heavy taxes on tea and other things that were very important to the colonists. And yet the American colonists had no voice in London, in the Parliament. And the American Revolution basically was about no taxation without representation. Now, I came here, and we have a few very interesting ethnic groups here. We have Muslims. They're organized. They have their own parties. We have a group called the Druze, who are an offshoot of Islam. They have 5 members of Knesset out of 120. Muslims have about 10. And the Christians who are living in Israel today, who are 8%, do not even have 1 representative in the Knesset. And I thought to myself, Christians are believers in the same God as the Jews, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Christians are believers in the Torah and the Old Testament, just like the Jews. We all believe that the Messiah is a Jew from Israel who speaks Hebrew. For the Christians, of course, that's Jesus Christ, but he was a Jew from Nazareth. The Christians serve in the army, they pay taxes, and they vote, and have not 1 representative in the Knesset. So my first aim was to provide representation for the Arab Christians. Then we had a massive immigration from Russia and the former Soviet Union. And today, out of about 2 million immigrants who came from the former Soviet Union, 400,000 are either Christian or mixed Jewish-Christian, but not recognized as Jews by the rabbinate. So they have no representation. Today we have the Ethiopians. Tomorrow we have, I believe, a Holocaust in America, which we'll talk about probably. And I believe there will be millions of Jews and Christians connected to the Jews through marriage and blood relationships who will find themselves leaving America, leaving Western Europe, and moving to Israel.
And of course, that's fulfilling biblical prophecy as well, isn't it? That the Jews will come back.
Exactly. And so this will sound completely crazy, but I believe that my party, probably after I'm dead, but my party eventually will become the biggest party in Israel.
Now, there are so many different political parties in Israel. Is it difficult to succeed in politics?
Nothing is difficult when you set your mind to it, and if God is with you, and you see clearly the direction in which you have to go. We have a country which has been going from one miracle to another miracle for the last 73 years. And no matter how much corruption the media plays up all the time, we are going according to God's plan. And I think our population, Ben-Gurion wrote to me, when Israel was 3 million Jews, the population would double and triple. Well, guess what? Today the Jewish population is 7 million. The Christians are about 500,000. Muslims about 2 million. So we have a total population of 10 million people. But I believe that the uprising in the United States, which I think is inevitable, I wouldn't call it an uprising, I'd call it chaos or maybe civil war. But the people who will be the most challenged and the most targeted will be the Jews and the Christian spouses. And in America today, there's 80% intermarriage. So if you come to kill the Jew, you have to kill the Christian spouse. So the only address where Jews and Christian spouses will be safe will be Israel. That's why I'm saying my party will become the biggest party, because if we have 5 to 10 million immigrants flooding this country from the West, we'll be the biggest party.
It's a matter of time, just do the maths.
So anyway, I thank God firstly for keeping me alive. I'm 73. I feel like I'm 37 and not 73, a dyslexic Jew. I think that Israel's borders also are going to grow. I think ISIS is going to take over in Jordan and Saudi Arabia. They will not sit quietly. They will attack Israel immediately. Israel will not be able to sit back and relax. So if Jordan, King Abdullah, falls to ISIS and they start digging tunnels under the Jordan River or in the desert, Israel will have to defend itself. Saudi Arabia, Israel will have to defend itself. Today in the news we hear about the Houthis in Yemen with Iranian-backed capabilities to launch suicide drones that could hit south of Israel. So even Yemen is in danger if they think that Israel can just sit back and allow these things to happen. In American history, I don't know if you learned the term manifest destiny. Manifest destiny was basically that the colonizers of America would go from the Atlantic to the Pacific. I think that the manifest destiny of Israel is from the Nile to the Euphrates and from Lebanon to Saudi Arabia and Yemen. It's not something I personally want. I want my kids and my grandkids to be living nearby, but God doesn't ask me what my preferences are.
Have you always been interested in politics?
Always interested in politics. I grew up in a home where history and politics were always discussed at the table. My father had an international auto parts company, so we were always discussing politics in the house. I'm also a stamp collector and coin collector, so when you are a very fervent stamp collector, you have catalogs, you study the history, the politics and history of every stamp and where the stamps were issued, and I know a lot about the history of the world because of stamp collecting. And today, young kids are on the computers all the time, on the cell phones. So people are being denied that great hobby of stamp collecting and coin collecting.
Now you're an author, you've written a few books. Tell us about the books that you've written.
Well, actually, I was one of those people who said, I'll never be an author. I'll never write a book. And you know what they say, never say never. And once there was a very dear Christian woman who came with ladies groups from Florida, and she said to me, you talk too fast. And all these old women who I bring, they get writer's cramp. They cannot take notes as fast as you speak. So give us a book. I said, I don't write books. I'm not an author. It was kind of like I was anti-academic and I wasn't a scholar in that sense. I felt just like a man of the people. Yeah. She said, you know what, just write an outline. And I was an Israeli army spokesman, so I wrote a 69-page pamphlet. And I printed 1,000, didn't give it much thought. I sold them within 3 months. Wow. So I said, well, we got to do another 1,000. But meanwhile, the pamphlet grew. There was new material that just had to be included. So it grew to 99 pages, and the third issue, 199 pages. And the fourth issue is 270. And finally, my first book came out as a book with 286 pages. It's a famous book now because I've already printed and sold in German and in English 80,000 books. It's called, Is Fanatic Islam a Global Threat? And the book actually predicted 9/11, 5 years before it happened. So from there, like they always say, the first time is the hardest time. And then I wrote my second book, A Christian Revival for Israel's Survival. or I'm saying that it would behoove Israel to build allies, Christian allies, and not say, oh, they persecuted us and they killed us, so we hate them forever. That type of thinking has to stop, even today. And that's one of the purposes of my party, actually. And my third book is Islamic Threat Updates, and this talks about Islamic plans after 9/11 to destroy America. And then my fourth book is about the Bible Block Party, which you have. And my fifth book is Islam Prophesied in Genesis, where I basically start preaching from the book of Genesis. My sixth book is called Return to Mecca, where I explain exactly the history of the exodus from Egypt, the phylacteries. The phylacteries are a symbol of the black stone. I want you to know that I'm very popular in Egypt and in Saudi Arabia in their TV with my subject. Here in Israel, nobody pays any attention to anything I say. Or maybe they do, but they don't want to let me know. And then my seventh book, which you also have, is the Islamic conflict about Syria, about the Sunnis and the Shiites. And those are my 7 books.
Now, recently you met with former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss an impending Holocaust of Jews in the U.S. Right. Is anti-Semitism getting bad in the U.S.?
I believe so. And, I'm an American citizen still, but I'm an Israeli citizen, and my primary concern is for the Jews of America and for the world. I had a very interesting dinner with a neo-Nazi. It's just, I didn't know he was a neo-Nazi, and then when I really understood what he was standing for, I got up and left the table, said, I can't sit with you anymore. But he said that the neo-Nazi patriotic militias in America are going to kill the Jews of America, wipe them all out, because the Jews voted 70% for the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party are communist, socialists, and traitors to the United States. Then you have Black Lives Matter, which was founded by Islamic Jihad. And the bottom line of Black Lives Matter is that the Jews are slumlords. And then there's Antifa, who are communist anarchists who will kill anybody who believes in God. So, and the basic common denominator is kill the Jews.
So all this fear in America will actually help to actually fulfill prophecy, because the Jews will be scared and come back home to Israel?
Either come home or die. They might look for other countries, but they will be expelled from other countries too, because nobody likes the communists. And the Jews follow the humanistic, socialist, communist ideology of solidarity of all the nations. The Christian approach primarily is nationalism, and Jews detest nationalism. And so the Jews basically are setting themselves up as a target for those nationalist Christians who want to kill them. Really, the only solution I see is massive aliyah to Israel, again, according to the new borders that we're going to have, which will include Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Lebanon, and part of Sinai, Egypt.
Is there a need for Western Christian leaders in the Knesset today?
Well, obviously, if you have 6 million Jews in America married to 4 million Christians, and the 4 million Christians move to Israel with the Jews, the Christians will still be 20-30% of the population, in other words, still a minority, but no taxation without representation. So obviously, it'll be very important to have Christian representatives. And also, this will help to ameliorate our relations with Christian countries that will not be able to come and say, well, the Jews are terrible people and they hate the Christians, because we're going to have Christians in our Knesset. So I kill a few birds with the same stone.
Now, you've spoken in many churches. Are Christians open to Israel? Is there a good relationship between Christians and Jews?
Okay, this is a very big challenge. I say that 95% of the Christians either hate the Jews or will not march with the Jews. Only 5%, the evangelicals, some of the evangelicals, will march with the Jews. Out of 2 billion people who believe in Christ, 1.2 billion are Catholic. Catholics are great people, but they follow the Pope. The Pope is the head of the Vatican. The Vatican is an army, an international army. You cannot be a Catholic and go against the orders of the Pope. And the Pope is to be kumbaya with Islam, which is a big mistake. 300 million Christians are Eastern Orthodox, Russian, Greek, Egyptian, Coptic, Ethiopian. They still believe that the Jews killed Christ. So they are anti-Israel because of theology. That's 1.5 billion. Then out of the remaining 500 million, who are the Protestants, half of them, or more than half, are the mainline Protestant churches, the Anglicans, the Lutherans, other mainline Protestant churches. And they are usually anti-Israel. So you're left primarily with about, I would say, 100 million born-agains, evangelicals, who to a greater or lesser degree are pro-Israel. Many of them still want to witness to the Jews and convert them to Christianity, but at least they're ready to help Israel. So that's, in my opinion, if we can reach out to 500,000 allies, which we really don't do now, It would behoove us to do that for our own sakes, to stay alive and build alliances with the Christian countries that love us.
Why do you do what you do?
I believe in destiny, and I think that God destined me to do this. Now, I'm 73. As I talk, you might think, well, this guy talks like he's 37 and not 73. I could die at any moment. Anybody can die at any moment. But I think my legacy is already set, and that is that we have to work together. In America, they always used to say, united we stand, divided we fall. And the battle is not just against Jews and Judaism. The battle is against the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And so the Christians and the Jews must stand together. I want you to know a lot of Christian leaders and a lot of Jewish leaders don't like me or like what I'm saying. But that's the way I see it.
And what's your prayer for Israel, this land?
My prayer for Israel is to wake up to realities, to see that there are some Christians who are still enemy, but that we should love those Christians who love us. We should bless those that bless us, as it says in Genesis 12:3, because if we don't bless those who bless us, then God will curse us.
And what's your website, and how can people get hold of your books?
Okay, I'm ashamed to say this, but my website is down, and we're building a brand new website, and I don't even have a name yet for it, but my email is vicmord, V-I-C-M-O-R-D, Victor Mordecai, V-I-C-M-O-R-D, 2001 at yahoo.com, and if people write to me, I'll write to them back, and as soon as we have a new website up and running, we can be in touch with that too.
Are your books on Amazon?
No, Amazon has banned me. PayPal has banned me. So I'm basically, all my things are politically incorrect. I've been judged, I've been sentenced, and I've been executed. Yeah. But God keeps me moving, and I'm very happy about that. And one day we will overcome all that also.
Okay, Dennis, thank you very much.
Blessings.
Thank you for joining us today. Pray that God will move by his mighty power in the Holy Land and bring his peace.